Hey everybody, so this will be part 2 of the 60-degree bowl gouge video. So today I'm going to go over shear scraping, and I'm not really sure what I would call it, but it's sort of a combination of push and pull cuts that are not riding the bevel, and shear scraping. So I'll take this bowl very quickly from the shape it's in to a general close shape, using the techniques from last week's video, and then I will show you why I really love this gouge so much, and how, at least for me, it's a really good tool for not just removing massive amounts of material or taking delicate cuts, but you can sort of use it use it as an overall sculpting tool. I just find that it's, at least for me, it's just super versatile, and it's like, so with all wood turning for me, it's not so much about having the right technique, but having a whole arsenal of techniques that you can use to handle anything that you might come across. So, you know, I'm not going to stand here and say this is the best bowl gouge in the world and this is why, but it's why it's the best for me. And it's just yet another tool in my tool chest of things that I can use to get the result that I want. So that said, let's crank this into a shape real quick and we'll go from there. All right, a little bit of repetition from the last video, but I'm going to very quickly take this to a rough shape, put a tenon on it. Yes, I know that I covered this last week, but sometimes, or most of the time, learning is done, in my opinion, the best way with repetition. So that said, tool down to the tool rest. Any pressure that you're applying is pushed down onto this rest, not into the blank. All right, so now that I have, you know, a general shape that's close to there, you know, some people would take the same gouge and do a push cut and do a nice finish cut from the foot to the top, which, depending on what I'm doing, you know, and I guess for me, this is a rough out. If I was doing just rough outs, that's exactly what I would do. But because most of my work is green to finish, getting the shape close isn't good enough. So for me, I find it easier to, at this point, rather than doing push cuts, to do really nice clean cuts and get closer to the right shape. I find using this as a sculpting tool allows me to sort of sneak up on that finish shape a little bit easier and I guess slower. So that said, it's basically the same technique as a shear scrape, with the exception is I will roll the gouge more open or more closed depending on where I'm at. So I'm using my whole body, and I'll do another angle of this showing my whole body, where I'm moving my whole body as one thing with the tool. So I am one with the tool. I am going to use my entire body to control what I'm doing. So, and it might be easier to watch this back edge. You'll start to see that back edge change the curve as I'm going. so at this point, I've got the shape I'm looking for, or at least close enough. The finish off of the gouge isn't fantastic. It's not as bad as it was at the initial stages of being roughed in, but you know, there's a little bit of tear out here and there. So at this point, I will switch to doing just shear scraping, and opposed to, you know, the general rule when you're doing a push cut, we're going from the foot to the rim to get a cleaner cut. I always find that going from the rim down in a push or in a shear scrape will generally give you a slightly cleaner finish than it will going in the correct direction. So that said, I'm gonna, let's see, how can I So now that we have the right overall shape, or close to the overall shape I'm looking for, now we can come in and refine that surface finish. So as opposed to the general rule when you're doing a push cut of going from the foot to the rim to get a cleaner cut, you may find, and I usually do, that going from the rim to the foot, doing a shear scrape is actually going to give you a better result for finish off of the gouge. So this angle, you'll be able to see, so I'm gonna, you know, pressure down, like I always say, onto the tool rest, and then I am locking my body, my arms and the tool all as one. I'm gonna move my whole body to get the result I'm looking for. And instead of looking at where the tool is at, I will look at this back edge, and I'll be able to see, you know, if it's not a perfectly clean cut, you get sort of a micro ghost edge where you can see the edge is moving. And generally, when the finish off of the gouge is clean, you'll see just one solid line. So as I'm working, I will be looking back here, not down here. And you'll get these just lovely little fine shavings, and just about a perfect finish. I've got a little tear that I can feel right up here. Perfect. So another thing I haven't really talked about when you're using shear scrape, I know that there's a, you know, certain people will say there's an angle you need to be at to get a better cut. I will say the steeper that you keep this gouge, the cleaner the cut will be. That said, depending on the wood, I find that the sharpness of the gouge is actually more important. I mean, obviously you're not going to get as clean of a cut if you're parallel, but if you're, you know, 40 degrees, you know, you'll get a pretty clean cut. If you're 60, it'll be a little better. So the more difficult time you're having getting a clean cut, the sharper your gouge, the sharper your gouge needs to be, and the steeper your gouge needs to be. So That said, let me show this at a different angle. All right, same technique, different angle of view. Hopefully between these few, you'll be able to see what's actually going on. So same thing, weight down here, not against the ball. And you'll see when I'm going a little too fast, you probably won't be able to see very well, but you can see tool marks in here, not tear out. The difference between the two, the tool marks are from traveling too quickly. But if you're gonna leave anything on a bowl, leaving tool marks, in my opinion, is always better than leaving tear out. Tool marks sand out really quickly, tear out does not. But you can eliminate these tool marks just by slowing down your feed rate. Just like that. So as you can see, there is no tear out, but like right here, those lines are tool marks from me traveling a little too fast. And then you can see where I slowed down, there's no tool marks and no tear out. So nice, very, very functional cut off of this 60-degree gouge. No need for any other cutting. You can go right to sanding if you're doing green to finish at this point. So, all right, so hopefully that all made sense to everybody. If you have any questions, if something isn't clear, just leave a comment. I will respond as best that I can. And if I find there's enough comments with people that just can't figure out what I'm trying to show, I can redo another video, very soon to try to remedy anything that might not be clear. So that said, the next video will be the same bowl gouge. I'll be showing how I handle the inside of a bowl. Generally speaking, I use a 40 to 45 degree grind to go from the end grain down as far as I can and still have bevel rubbing contact. But once I can't, I will switch to this gouge, and I find that the cleanness off of the gouge for this, from like a third of the way down to the rest of the way, gives me the cleanest cut out of any gouge that I use, other than possibly a bottoming gouge, which I rarely use. I only use those when it's a really, really deep piece that I just can't reach with my normal gouges. So that said, if you're not already, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out. And there'll be a link in the notes below for my Wood Turning Tip Tuesday newsletter, where I send out a free weekly turning tip. So anyhow, everybody, hope this helped. And until next time, take care.